Good day, everyone! Thank you for joining us on the last day of the virtual conferences of the ASEAN International Furniture and Furnishings Show VX. For our first session today, our speakers will discuss the directions of hotel design, space planning, and interior design. To moderate this panel discussion and introduce our panelists, please welcome Mr. Merrill Yu, CEO of YNS 1847.
Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to our panel discussion. It's my honor, treat to be able to introduce our panelists for today. First, we have Carmelo Meloy Casas, and you'll recognize his works in the Philippines because as Manila's ever getting taller skyline, Meloy's firm has always been part of the early growth, the mid-tall growth, and the ever surging closer to the sky growth. Louis is joining us from Dallas, where he is the principal and director of hospitality at HKS. HKS is one of the world's largest and eminent architectural firms. And Louis's role, he oversees the very broad and diverse portfolio of hotel design, and he works with all the major significant brands and consultants for worldwide projects. Hanky joins us as starting off as an entrepreneur in the Philippines, where he co-founded Yellow Cab Pizza, which at the time was the largest growing pizza chain. And then he fell in love with hotels. So he started his own brand of hotels called the Henry Hotels, which have been since his beginning much awarded and respected. And he's also growing the portfolio through the country. So I wanted to and joining us after will also be Isabel. Isabel is what I would call an intercontinental design influencer. Her portfolio really spans continents and geographic time zones. And her firm is based in Singapore and in London. So welcome to our very distinguished panel and also good friends. I wanted to get it kicked off with an opening question. Pre-pandemic, building developments concepts were all on overdrive. Now it's almost been an exact year since every country has effectively been shut down in one way, shape, or form. So what were the learnings from 2020, now that we have the benefit of looking with hindsight? What have we learned in the last 12 months, right? What changed? Did business really come to a grinding stop? Who continued? And what are the changes that you've seen that are top of mind? Meloy, why don't we start with you?
Sorry. Good morning, everyone. Yeah. Well, last year was tough, as everybody knows. It was panic at first before we get the feel of what's going to happen. And of course, the immediate concern was really the continuity of the business, and of course our health, the family. So the priorities have changed, during that last year. The past year really made us realize what is important in our life and with our environment as well. And we saw a lot of projects stopped. Most of them are hotel projects, as you know. And I've been asking also for this past year and hoping that a lot of these projects will resume, But all indications are saying to us that most of the projects will be maintained to be dormant for now, except for a few hotel projects that are integrated resorts, which are part of a bigger complex. Those are the ones that are being continued because the hotel part or component is only a small part of the whole integrated resort. So, and these kept us going. We're talking about projects with components in an integrated resort like gaming and with commercial, office, residential. So these are the ones that are being pushed through. And the past year, there are some hotel developers that took advantage of the time to continue with the design exercise. As you know, Luis and Isabel would know that it takes about 4 to 6 months just to complete or to do all this documentation for architectural engineering and interior design drawings. So which we're very happy to do because of the lockdown. It also gave us the chance to realize that work from home actually works for architects and interior designer firms like us. Before, we would never entertain employees working in faraway places. No, but now we're working with architects who are based in Cotabato, Zamboanga, Clark, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. Now I'm amazed as well that it works. No, so those are the new changes, new things that we were able to learn this past year.
Thanks, Miller. Isabel, what about from your perspective?
Okay, I just unmuted. Hello to everyone. I've contacted some of you and very pleased to meet you for the first time. And thank you so much, Mel, for having me. Just to give you a little bit of perspective on us, it's also definitely been a bit of a shocker to go through 2020 in terms of the work and how we had to adjust to the new way of working. I hear so many comments of people like saying, I don't know when this is going to end, but it has to end. I don't know really. I think everyone wants to believe that things are going to go back to normal. Like that's often what I hear also, like, I can't wait for things to go back to normal. But I also realize that I think you cannot undo the things we've been learning against our better, judgment, or like maybe we would have never taken some of the steps we had to take last year. But it also taught us a lot about us, about learning to live through things that are out of our control and how to make our own world of design, and I'm talking about the design. Of course, our personal lives, had to also take a big swing, especially with being with friends and being with family, especially for someone like me who lives outside of her own country. So it's been definitely a tough year to think, when will I see them? But it also has taught us, that if in the past we thought that things were difficult, this time it really was even more difficult. And we're still here, we're still talking to each other, and we have learned that we can still be pushed and swim above the waters. So design-wise, it has also given us a little bit of challenge in terms of some of the projects as well, which were shelved. So we had to reinvent ourselves and look more within where we work to feed us with projects. So now Singapore has become, London is much more difficult because I think that it's been much tougher in London than it has been in Singapore. Although we've had restrictions in Singapore, we didn't have them we've had them for 2 months, which to me was a very welcome break in my life, because I have to say that I don't think I've ever had 2 months of vacation. So design-wise, it has made us go back into ourselves as well. I think that I've been able to take more time to think through a design and put time to put from idea down on paper and actually deepen the process. That was a great time also of self-reflection, or like, what do I want to be? How do I want to proceed for myself design-wise? And uh, the past, I can't work like this, so how do I move forward? I think Zoom is a great thing, but we've all also experienced that we miss people, we miss the interaction, and especially when you're in the creative industry. I think that people having a sit down next to each other, being able to discuss face to face, and also it's hard to translate the passion of a project and the passion that it actually brings in us through Zoom. Tell a client that, on a one-to-one, you can, or in a group, in a room, you can really express all that, and it's contagious. Through a screen, being contagious in your design and your design process, and it's much harder. So I've had one client in Vietnam which actually said, if you're not going to be here, it's impossible for us to continue. But I had another client actually, which felt we signed a new project, a new hotel, and said, it's okay, I think we'll just go through the hurdles. So it's everyone's capabilities of dealing with the new realities that will change also, and how adaptable everyone becomes. So we can help each other to continue. I'm an international designer. I don't want to stop being international, but I also have to have people who are going to embrace the new ways of working, so we can continue to be hand in hand.
Thanks, Isabel. Louis, what about from you?
Yeah, well, I will. Thank you for having me. I will echo what Carmelo and Isabel had said. It's hard to describe what last year has been for our industry, and I was trying to put an order to it in a couple to be succinct here, but it was on a personal level, on a business level, and on the way we do our work level. So at a personal level, I think I agree with Carmelo. It has bring new light to our priorities, our families, and how we spend our lives. It has showed us that we can do things differently, and how we can spend more time with the people we love. So I think it has put that, a lot of us used to spend a lot of time in planes and traveling and enjoying that life, but we realized that some of our priorities might align differently after what we've been through. On the business side, of course, it's been, for our industry, it's been a devastating year. But for us as a firm, it showed us to be diverse in our business. It's been great. Diverse in the type of projects we do in the hotel, whether it's resort, urban, conference. That allows us to do different things, but also regional. Some regions have been more impacted by these than other ones. So, for example, our London studios is thriving with work in the Middle East and North Africa and other places, while our US studios are a little more hurt because of the big impact on this continent. And on the way we do things, on how we work, I agree with Carmelo. At the beginning, the first 2 months of the pandemic, we thought, man, we can work like this. This is great. We have all the tools. We have Zoom. We can sketch on Zoom. But I think everybody's getting tired of that. I agree with Isabel. I think we're a creative industry, and what we're doing by designing hotels is we're creating spaces for people and places for people. So interaction and passion and creativity, it's very important for what we do. And not only that, I think by not being in the office, our younger staff, and it's missing that learning by osmosis, right? By listening to what people say, by just So I think a lot of us are ready to go back to the office and just be with people.
Thanks, Louis. Anki, what about for you?
Yeah, thank you for having me here. Right, I'm honored to be with these giants. Was when I was listening to them. I basically just have three words. It's pause, rediscover, and reimagine. Right, you're right. I mean, 2020 or the start of 2021 was really wow. I mean, we were looking at basically the greatest year. I mean, 2020, what we were looking right, running around like a headless chicken. But this pandemic ordered us pause and pause to basically rediscover. Actually, on my end, is rediscover why we're doing what we're doing, right? And I'm thinking, do I really want to pursue this? Do I really want to, redefine and elevate Philippine hospitality, right? Is this really what I wanted to do, right? And it made me think that it made me think, are these really our values? Values that are important to us? So basically, it's rediscovering the core, or basically looking inwards, right? And the third is reading. It's reimagining, right, our operations. Like, how do we do this, right? So alcohol, sanitation, disinfection. It's looking at really reimagining how we run our operations, right? And not only that, we had to look at how do we survive also, because uh, Luis, you said devastating. I heard that it is devastating for the industry, right? But still, we have to find a way to survive, right? And not only that, and how to move forward. Um, and last, is reimagine experience. So we are a chain of boutique hotels. In the end, we are all about experience, all about our local communities, right? So, and then how do we deliver experience now, given that people are so afraid to even travel? People, or when they're in our hotels, they're afraid to touch anything or go out of their rooms, right? So those are the three words that are in my mind: pause, rediscover, and reimagine.
Thank you all. I think what history has shown is that for every catastrophe, something good comes out of it, right? If you take a look at the Renaissance was born out of the plague and the Dark Ages, right? And yet, what did they discover after that is arts, philosophy, new printing techniques, right? So in terms of what we've gone through last year and where we see things ahead, what are going to be the defining, where do you see the defining changes going to be that address more thought into the guest experience, space planning? I mean, how many offices pre-pandemic were basically like shoeboxes, right? Where literally it was a mathematical formula to say, okay, I have so many thousand square meters, how many people can I squeeze in? Well, that all went away with the pandemic, right? So how can we use the positive changes that are not going to go away and use it to make things better, right? For the customer experience, the staff experience. Obviously, technology has leapfrogged 10 times in 1 year. So how do we blend all of that so that anything that is, so that if we say that most of the traffic of commoditizing design and building has basically been stopped, that everything has to be re-quantified to do things better, where do you guys see uh, the opportunities ahead? Anyone?
I can start if you want to, Meryl. Uh, I've been thinking about this a lot, and the like we say in the U.S., the goalposts have been changing so much through what was March and then June, and then things have changing. So for me, it's early to assess what the design changes will be for the hotels of the future. I think we're still waiting to see how things evolve. how people behave after we have achieved herd immunity. Um, so, but because a lot of the change, and Hanky probably will touch more on this, a lot of the changes we've seen today are operational, right? With the way the rooms are clean, with the way a lot of contactless keys and contactless checking in, and at least in some parts of the world, offering or not offering housekeeping service. You know, some people are choosing not to get their rooms clean if they have a 2 or 3 stay day. So a lot of the changes are operational, and then I think we're going to have to then work with people like Hanky and the operators to understand how that affects the overall space planning. What we do know, I think, at this point is that connectivity to the exterior spaces, natural light, natural ventilation, all of those elements are going to be very important. You know, for example, in the US, where some of the places, businesses were open, but only for the exterior seating. I think that's going to be at a premium moving on. People are going to be feeling more comfortable sitting outside with natural ventilation. One of the other things that I think we're going to have to work hard in hotels is on the mechanical and HVAC systems. Early in the pandemic, we worked very close with the government here, our firm, to try to understand how we could turn hotels into hospitals in case it was needed. And we realized there were a lot of good things about the way we design hotels to turn as hospitals. The biggest challenge were the HVAC systems. We're not changing enough air quick enough to allow hotels to truly be hygienic as hospitals. So I think maybe thinking of the HVAC systems a little in a different way after this might be very helpful.
Okay. Thanks, Louis.
Maybe I can take over. I think that there's going to be the practical side, but I also think that we're going to have to take care of the psychological side of, you know, the results of this pandemic. A lot of people have suffered of the indoors, and when you're in the country, I think that it's an easier thing to deal with because you are not trapped with 4 walls. And in Singapore, for example, a lot of people have to do the 2 weeks quarantine in an hotel. And obviously they're going to be in cities right after the, you know, being taken from the airport. And a lot of people have been like going crazy over, like, you know, no natural ventilation. Everyone was like begging to have a little sitting outside the room, being able to open the windows. And it's something which, you know, for other places in the world are kind of like something everybody's looking towards, having a little outdoor seating, even if it's in the city. But in Asia, it was not something that people love. They want to have the aircon. They don't care to open the window. But now things are going to be changing because people are going to, you know, be afraid to be back into a pandemic and then going back into an hotel which has no possible ways of opening a window. You know, the fresh air is something that we'll all, if you are stuck in an hotel room with no fresh air, I think that people are going to be, you know, going berserk. A lot of people do not even want to travel because of that. So I think maybe the rethinking of maybe bringing a nicer, more healthy way to look at an hotel room will definitely, with options. I'm not saying everyone is like anxious not to be able to open a window, but a lot of people have been anxious about it. Being able to expand the room to, and also the views. It's funny because people were like so anxious to have views, and any room who has, you know, a poor room view was also feeling very depressed. So mentally, I think that I would want to really like put extra effort into designing a space which makes someone feel good to be in, not just you have the bed and you have the desk. Now you're going to have to think outside of that.
Right. Thank you.
Anki, do you want to start first or am I okay? Okay, so just to reinforce what Luis and Isabel said, I totally agree. And as in the architectural planning of our hotels and residential, before we were discouraged to design a single loaded corridor for hotels or residential. But now it's a bit acceptable or more encouraged to have an atrium in the middle and have the corridors wrapping around the atrium, especially with not so high tall buildings, that provides a lot of air ventilation. And also, before we were told not to put openable windows on hotels and even offices, but thank God thanks to our green building code of the Philippines, that we now have to really provide 10% of the area that you have to have an openable window. So I know it's more expensive. Developers don't like it. And of course, technically, that creates a lot of problems when you have openable windows for high-rise buildings. But I sit here in an old building here, and I really feel comfortable that I can open up a segment of my window to accept the natural air. So those things, and of course, providing more spaces for the sanitation procedure, for the protocol, aside from the security machines that we have to provide here in the Philippines. Now we have to provide spaces for the deliveries and the checking of your temperature, so all this has to be taken into consideration nowadays.
Okay, thank you, Miloy. Anki?
Yeah, for me, I'd like to use again the word rediscover, Meryl. This pandemic has caused us to rethink actually as as managers of hotels. It's made us rethink, right? Do we go into urban areas or do we go into resorts, right? So business hotels or resorts, and this pandemic has really made us really focus on resorts this time. And because resorts for me it's a natural barrier against the pandemic, right? You have ventilation because it's open air, it's the sea air. Usually resorts are high ceiling. There is a lot of space, and there is you can create this sense of space, right? And so that's why we're fully focusing on leisure, right? And then it's the second point of rediscover is rediscover history. Actually, we forged ahead and opened a new resort in the southern part of the Philippines, in Dumaguete, which is about an hour from Manila, right? And we opened it last December. And actually, it's an adaptive reuse. It was an old resort which we reimagined, right? And when we were doing this resort, we were thinking, it is all the elements that people crave for, like what Isabel is saying, that people crave for because they're put in their tiny shoe boxes, or they're in their hotel rooms that I have four walls, right? But resorts and leisure properties have that natural fresh air, natural sense, natural there's volume, there's a lot of space, right? So that's why, in the years to come, most of our properties that will open are all leisure. So that's the pivot, that those are the opportunities that we went for now, leisure.
I think that
Mary, if I can add something to what Hank is saying, in the U.S. market, we're seeing developers really want to start creating destinations in closer to cities, because part of the fear that Isabel was talking about is also traveling in planes, right? So at least in this part of the world, a lot of people are going to start thinking about traveling by car with their families to a little bit more remote destinations, whether it's mountain resort, beach resort, lake resorts. But it's something people are saying that people are going to crave to be close, somewhere they can drive and be away in a leisure environment.
I guess I agree with everything you all have said. From a consumer point of view, the few chances my wife and I would have to be able to go out and go to a place, we would always wind up selecting somewhere where it had the right ambiance that fits us. That there's something by design, by feel, the combination of design, service, and operations, and that's what we look for. And I think that if you move the business travel away from a little bit of the total travel and we focus on the leisure market where people are going by choice to certain locations, right? I think that that's the opportunity where you go to a hotel, you enjoy the room, you enjoy the way it's been laid out, and sometimes it appeals to your basic instincts of airiness, easy to move around, makes sense. That from a buyer point of view, from a guest point of view, it just makes sense. So in that sense, that is probably the opportunity, right? As the market bounces back first, and corporate travel, I think will have its own life. But for leisure travel, maybe that is the tail that wags the dog, right? In terms of the design experience. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And let's open it up for some questions from the audience, right? And then since in the audience, please feel free to ask questions. This is an inspired panel, so we encourage you to fire away, so to speak.
Thank you very much to Mr. Merrill Yu and our panelists. Before we proceed to the Q&A, here are the house rules. Please turn off your video and set your audio to mute. There will be a Q&A portion at the end of the presentation. You may ask your questions using the chat box. It's possible that not all questions will be answered live, but we can email the list of questions and answers to all attendees after the webinar. Speakers, you may now answer the questions of our attendees.
Let's see. Okay. Well, for me, whenever I used to visit Isabel in Singapore, I enjoy Singapore because within a rather small walking distance, I have favorite hotels. So if I wanted a classical hotel, I would go here. If I wanted a hotel that was very avant-garde and airy, place I love, I would go there, right? And so I think that between the classical and the modern, right, those are the opportunities. What are your own preferences in terms of what appeals to each of you as a guest would be my question.
Sorry, I'm jumping very quickly. Isabella, do you want to go first?
Thank you. You're all beautiful gentlemen, but you can go ahead. Thank you.
Sure. For us as a guest, and I've been doing this for so long that I think it's the same thing. I'm looking for something that is authentic. Mm-hmm. It could be classical or more modern, but it has to be authentic. And the way we approach every design that we do is we call it just rooted. That's what we try to ingrain in all our young designers, is that hotel design is different. You cannot just do a beautiful building. It has to be rooted in its culture, in its craftsmanship, and its people. So authentic and rooted. That's what I look for now when I go for a hotel. If I go to Singapore, I want to feel in Singapore. If I go to the Philippines, I want to feel that culture. I just don't want to feel like in a central London hotel in the Philippines. That's the way we see it.
Isabel?
Let me see. Okay, so I'm still online. I think for me, the cultural aspect is important. I think that we all know that this is also important, the sense of place. But I want to be surprised. I want something that actually, makes me look at things in a different way. I love someone who has actually had a different twist on how you enter the room, or a different twist on how you use the bathroom, or I mean, I love the big change when actually the bathroom were exploded into the room. I thought that actually, that was what, 15, 20 years ago, remember? I mean, oh my God, I shouldn't even no, not my time. But I love when people come up with something different and it surprises me. And unfortunately, I don't get surprised often because we tend to be keeping to certain rules that are difficult to shake. So I always welcome clients that are going to give me the chance to do things differently and push boundaries. So I love places that push boundaries.
Thank you.
I totally agree with Luis and Isabel. It's really the customer experience when you look for when you try to live in a place. I mean, I'm going for the first time. Would you believe? We're trying to promote local tourism, so we're going to La Union. I'm going to La Union in a couple of days, and first thing my children wanted me to, they asked me, so what do you want to do there? I said, I want to go around first, look at the place. And so I guess it's really all of the above that Isabel and Luis was saying, that first is really the customer experience of the hotel. You can't take out being an architect that you want to critique right away the design of the hotel, the rooms and the toilet, the bathrooms, like what Isabel is saying, especially with my wife, who is a very, picky or very OC. So, but looking for a place where to go, you really want to see what else can you do within that area. So whether it's sightseeing or playing golf or things that you want to experience, something new every time that you go to a place.
Okay. Anki?
I actually resonate so much with what Luis said, right? Those two words that he used, Luis, authentic and rooted. It's actually what we're trying to do, right? The Philippines is very diverse in terms of culture because we're archipelagic, right? So each island technically has their own culture, just like it has its own celebration, or what we call the fiesta, right? Each island is so different, right? And that's what we're planning to do, like as we expand all over the Philippines in the different islands. It will be rooted in the culture of that particular island or that particular province where it's at, right? So that way we create, like what the architect Casa says, is there are experiences, right? And these experiences will be hopefully like no other. So people would love to go there. It's a destination.
Okay, good. Thank you. Couple of questions from the audience. One of them, since flying is going to be an issue and the carbon footprint is going to be something you're going to be dealing with in the future, how important is it that designers deal with all those coming impediments? Carbon footprint. Anyone?
I think that there's going to be a sense of staying where we are a little bit more. Maybe we're going to really take the time to explore around us, and maybe not be so quick at taking and jumping on a plane, which is not going to be great for our airlines. But at the same time, I think that also a discovery of where we live is sometimes we often prefer to go all the way on the other side of the world. And when people ask you, have you seen this right around the corner of your place? And it's the first time that you discover it because you've been stuck where you are. Like I live next to the Bukit Batok Reserve, and I've only discovered it after 15 years. So it's kind of like pathetic, but it's the truth. So I was on an airplane going to the Maldives and Fiji and this and that. And of course, I mean, I appreciate that, but Bukit Batok Reserve is amazing. And so I'm so grateful that I've been able to explore around my neighborhood. And then I also think that the way we're going to be able to deal with this design-wise, we're going to maybe be a little bit more micro sensitive to what the people that are around us, to their specialties, to what they can produce for us, instead of like, bringing things from everywhere in the world. We're going to be a little bit more focused on using the local know-how. And maybe also, I have not mentioned, but for me, art is at the center of my design. And I think I've always done a research on the artists that are local artists, and give a chance for them to express themselves in a bigger space. So I think that also, in terms of using the local know-how, the local talents, is going to be even more a big part of our designs.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else would like to add to that? No? Okay, good.
Yeah, just reiterate that we're seeing that in some parts of the Americas, that people traveling closer to home. But someone used this term the other day, and I'm not sure, I don't remember who it was, but we also think that there's going to be some what we call revenge travel after this is done, just because people are dying to get out as well. So it's a balance.
Okay. Oh, good. All right. Good. On that note, I wanted to thank our esteemed panel, Isabel, Louis, Hanky, and Carmelo, Meloy, for being part of this. Speaking on behalf of the audience, we all benefited from certainly a richness of each of your insights and wisdom. There have been some requests to get your contact information, and we'll handle giving out that as well. All right. So thank you very much. Take good care. God bless. And again, thank you for being part of this today.
Thank you. We appreciate it. And nice to be with you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And so nice to see you, Carmelo. And nice meeting you, Luis. And
good to meet you as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
Take care.
Hope to see you again.
Okay. Yes. And Hanky, hope we will meet definitely and have a coffee in Taal.
Meryl, thank you very much for asking us to be a part of this. We appreciate it.
Meryl.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Meryl. Thank you so much.
God bless.
Let's have lunch sometime, Meryl.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
Bye.
And that ends our Q&A portion. Thank you everyone, and we hope you will join us again later at 11:15 a.m. for our next webinar titled Convergence and Divergence: Redesign the Future by X Project Development Services.